Check 1, 2. Wait, I don't think it is. Is Red here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, turn this mic down.
Just Macho Man.
Well, Macho's gonna get the full hot on this deal.
Yeah. Dan parked right next to him too.
As close as I can get.
We're gonna have Shannon. We'll have Shannon Burke on in the Comrex here in a little bit.
God bless the USA.
I got fucking lobster chip mouth.
That's so gross.
Shannon is connected.
I'm surprised he didn't swing.
I hear you.
Back in the day, he's changed now.
I know.
Swing
We're gonna beat your ass in the alley after this debate.
What's the address here?
I got it.
Hey.
I mean, you know.
We don't want to get swatted during this.
Right.
I think Shannon's standing by.
Hello.
Shannon, how are you?
Hey, buddy. Hey, hello, everybody. How are you?
How's everything in Fort Walton Beach going?
Wonderful. Wonderfully well. Absolutely.
We have
fantastic.
to really make an effort to do like an appearance there or something. One, because it's beautiful.
Right.
And last time we went up there, we weren't even really a bona fide promotion, and we had a great time.
Well, let's go up in like November or something.
Yankee Jib.
Yeah.
And we don't have that
$10.
and we don't have that douchebag Justin Clark with us anymore.
Right, exactly.
I'm just saying. Although Dan wanted to fuck his girl so bad, I'm just telling you.
Dan almost fought him. You guys put me in a very uncomfortable position that day, but
Nikki
I loved
peeled
it.
$50.
Thank you. Hold on. What did we do?
We were doing that live show in the performance studio, and I'm facing out, and you guys are facing me, and you guys are talking shit about him, and he's
looking
right at
he's
me.
looking right at you. Oh yeah, and he's like looking at you with like Shannon, make it stop, and you're like I can't stop Bubba, he's uncontrollable.
Oh, hey,
and I
what
certainly
am I gonna
can't stop Dan. I mean, because he doesn't even they don't even fucking pay him. So
Yeah, there's no stopping me. And I piled on. Every time you shot, I kicked one more time. You know?
Yeah.
Right in the ribs.
I know, and you know deep down his girl was thinking about fucking Dan. You know, she's like, man, I could be
She's
with
still
this.
thinking about it.
She's like, man, I got nerd boy here that spends a little bit of money, but I like the bad boy surgeon over there. Look at him, fucking bad boy. I guarantee you party way harder than Justin Clark. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
She just wanted fucked proper. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Dude, I love talking about fucking before a debate, man. It turns me the fuck on.
Yeah.
Kamala and Trump.
Now, Lummy, are we gonna pipe this in? How are we doing this? I know we're live on YouTube right now, and
David Van Dyke, $10.
And I pretty much am just keeping it on YouTube and X because I don't want to spread it out too much. I just want people to have to navigate to these two places.
Funny Face, $10.
So we're making money on this shit, huh, Lummy?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. So
Abe from Maine, $20.
How are we gonna pipe in the feed?
Well, I think that's where Macho comes in.
You take it from anywhere.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna pipe it up from your internet pod. We're gonna send you a link.
I can pipe it up here.
Well, we were gonna send you a link, Bubba, and then have you just play it on your internet pod.
Oh, hold on. Okay, fine. That's what we'll do then. I see that Macho Man has commandeered my computer right now, and he's.
Yes.
I guess he's open. Okay.
Yes.
I have no control of anything right now.
By the way, Bubba, babyface Brian Matroni is dressed head to toe.
By the way, he can fuck straight off.
No, he can fuck off for sure, and not because.
And you know what? He really listen. We very rarely. Nobody ever really steps on your Judaism. He fucking
Twice.
He mouth fucked your Judaism.
I'm working with Dan right now on a class action against the Matroni household.
But you
Hall of
have no
Fame,
class and you get no action.
Brian from Philly, $10.
You know what so here's what he did, Shannon. He comes in with these fucking Japanese Lay's potato chips from Japan supposedly, and they're different flavors. The first one was like he gives them to us to guess the flavors. Well, he gives us the first one. It was like what, barbecue, some
Pork ribs. He gives to the Jewish guy.
He gives to the
They're
Jew.
not really pork ribs,
ribs.
guys.
He gives pork.
Come on, dude. It's like throwing a sausage at that boxer. That's the wrong thing to do.
And then the next one.
The trans boxer?
Did you like, I can't place this flavor. I've never had it in my mouth before.
Then the next one wasn't, anything, but it just tastes. I still got the aftertaste in my mouth, and it was fucking lobster
Cream.
Oh, Kim came back
That's
from
like-
Korea with a ton of different snacks that are all like, eel and squid, barbecue squid.
That'd get a bitch slapped in my household. Just telling you that right
Looking
now.
for McDonald's.
All right, so here we go.
The Radettes were live from Philadelphia at the National Constitution
right, here we go.
Center.
So is this how we're going to do it, Seth? Just pipe this bitch right on through?
Yeah.
Pipe it right on through, bitch.
I guess, yeah. Unless we're gonna
Any
have
predictions?
Bubba, did you see
Mach acted out.
They made Kamala's podium shorter.
Yeah.
What?
They made her
They
podium
wouldn't let her have a
shorter.
box, so they made it shorter.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh,
We got-
so they
It's
cut
okay.
they cut it down so that she doesn't look so.
Tiny to your boobs.
Who's this old crypt
Hey,
keeper
Bubba,
on
we
fucking
got
TV?
we got 10
Oh my
until it
God.
starts. If you wanted to, I don't know if you want to keep her up or down.
Did you know that
Oh, yeah,
she's
let's keep it.
5'3"? She's that short? I had no idea she was that short.
Yeah.
Little spinner, huh?
Yeah.
Montel Williams taking that thing around the block.
Remember when Trump gamed on DeSantis for wanting a box? He's like,
Right.
he wants a box for their. Why should he have a box? It's okay to be
Man,
short.
do you still like?
Do I get a box?
Do you still like DeSantis?
I'm happy he's my governor. Yeah, I'm happy he's my governor.
For real?
Let him
You
do
don't-
his thing
You
right
don't
now.
think that he's completely just fucking completely screwed the pooch on his second term?
He may have done that, but
I mean, he fucks with this prosecuting attorney. I mean, it's a state attorney over here. He's fucking with Disney. He's got abortion locked down to 0. Doesn't like weed. Like, he's just a real fucking douchebag.
he doesn't like weed, but Trump's voting for that proposition. He said he's voting yes on Prop 4.
The young Republicans in Florida just came out in support of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm one of them. I'm getting ready to fire up a pre-order.
Well, you're not a young Republican.
So
Well, you're right.
The old crusty Republicans.
a middle-aged Republican.
Have you guys seen the anti marijuana commercials?
Yes.
I mean, they're coming hard with them. And so, is that big pharma? Like, who's
No,
fuck-
that's Ron DeSantis and his
No.
pack. Absolutely.
Ross $20 and Bubba Astal $20.
Look,
like who's the money behind that? Because they're coming out hard.
I think the state.
DeSantis.
Yeah.
it's got to be DeSantis, but John Morgan got more money than the state got to fight this thing, and he's the largest
Yeah.
producer in the state. So
I was talking to John Morgan one time. He goes, "Yeah, I just hit 100 million personal worth. This was like 10 years ago." And it means I got to get a bigger jet. And did you know that John Morgan makes each of his kids that are going to be part of the firm? There's $1 million buy-in. Did you know that?
Really?
I did not know that.
Dick.
Yeah, he made. What do you mean, dick?
Dude, come on.
No, you
Come
know what
on,
that-
it's
you
his
know-
kids.
No, you know what that is?
Come on.
You know what that is?
Dick.
That's making them pay their fucking dues, is what it is.
Well, I mean, the first time I met John Morgan, I was sitting on the outside of the back of the Fiddler's Green in Winter Park, this little Irish bar here. A limo pulls up. I'd only been in town a couple of months.
There was ever
4 or 5 girls get out in like uniforms, like short shorts and a matching shirts, and then John Morgan comes out, and the owner of the club knew him, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? This is John Morgan. Hey, this is Shannon Burke." It was this bowling team of hot chicks
That's awesome.
on a
Well, hold on.
Wednesday night.
But he is such a slinging dick that when you were in trouble, and
Yes.
he actually,
Let me tell you.
he actually walked in and
Yeah.
and went to your side of the walked through the two little double doors. Like there's no decorum for him. He does
No.
what the fuck he wants, and kind of tapped you on the shoulder a little bit,
Yeah.
kind of showing the judge that you're his boy.
Yeah, he sat down. I'd seen him in the hallways before. This was a family law thing, and but there were some other extenuating circumstances. And we talked in the hallway, and he asked me what I was there for. I guess he read it real quick, and he walks in, sat next to us. That thing went entirely the different direction than we thought it was going to go.
And
Just
it was
simply because he was sitting there.
Just because he was sitting on your side.
Yeah, and he never said a word, and no one ever asked if he was with me or representing me. But because he was there, he changed the entire landscape.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful thing.
He's
He's a slinging dick.
he is a swinging dick. By the way, Lummy, John Costica, $500 to get this bitch started. Man. Shannon, have you ever seen any radio template like this where they just pay us money to do a show? I mean,
No.
what the fuck?
I love it. It listener supported radio.
What do other radio people say about our radio telethon, our daily radio telethon?
Well, without knowing your numbers, they're probably like, "Oh, he's bagging and this and that." But if they knew what you're what you're accomplishing there, they'd probably go, okay, let me see if I can work that out.
Yeah, they were like, hey man, you know what? I can pay my entire my business is self-sustainable. From what we do. We don't make hardly any money terrestrially. It's all digital for the most part.
Right.
Digital and begging. It works well. I couldn't teach it at the morning show boot camp because only a certain amount. You got to have a certain swagger to be able to do it.
What does anyone have a prediction for tonight? A winner, a loser?
Trump wins.
Will it be another career ender like the last?
No. Here's what I think. If Trump lays back and just
plays defense like Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, but he just lays back and doesn't fuck with her too bad and actually gives her some respect. She'll bury herself because all she's full of is word salad.
So if I'm Trump tonight, I go at her with I start calling her Kamala Biden. And that's the nickname for her because the Biden administration was done. I mean, it was over. They were done.
Yes, I think associating them together is his best.
The more he can do, and the easiest way he can do that is call her Kamala Biden.
Yeah, I agree.
And
call her Vice President Biden because that's what she is.
Most of her policy on her website that she just posted Sunday was copy and pasted from Biden's website.
So you're saying, Brian, that he could be the biggest dick of all by just subtly, very, 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 very inconspicuously call her, Kamala Biden. Just by saying that is the biggest fuck you of all.
That's all.
He doesn't have to go on any big tirade or anything. Just saying, oh, thank you, Vice President Kamala Biden.
Yeah,
Vice
President Biden.
All of the things that you're trying to fix is shit that you fucked up 3.5 years ago. You've had all this shit that you're trying to. Your whole agenda is about fixing what you fucked up.
Were we all of us in the same on the same thing during the Biden-Trump debate?
Yes.
Well, okay. Let me ask this.
Brian.
I mean, hold on.
Remember Brian.
He stood up. He couldn't believe that when Biden lost it and ended his career, Brian stood up and walked around.
Hold on. Brian was the first to call it right after his opening statements. Brian stood up and said, "I feel like I just watched my mom get fucked on the 50-yard line."
Oh yes,
raped on the 50-yard line at the Super Bowl.
You're right.
That's what he said. I feel like I just watched my mom get raped at the 50-yard line during the Super Bowl. We're fucked.
I said it's over. It's over for him. I knew at that moment he was done. It was over.
Chris, super chat.
You did. You were the first to call it. And thank you, John Costica. One more for you, Bubba. I love you so much.
Hey, Bubba, right before we get real comfortable and start watching this, Lummy said he's allergic to lobster, so he's got it freaking out and getting a little hot. And I'm a little warm myself from having the pork chips.
I got the air down.
Lobster in there?
They're the shittiest fucking god for awful chips you could ever.
No lobster in there.
It's lobster. It's lobster taste.
Grind up a lobster in the juice. They soak the chips in the juice.
Shannon, it does a.
It sucks.
It's like brine.
It has a residue in my mouth.
My wife is Korean. She drags me to these Korean stores. I'm buying fish off a nail or dried on the wall. It's just bizarre.
That's disgusting.
That's right. That's the only thing I don't like about your wife.
The only thing I don't like about your wife is she's a foreigner?
No. Is that she'll be, I would be mad at Kim if she took me to an eel joint. I would.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I love Kim, but she knows I'm an American kind of guy. Take me to a burger joint. Don't take me to a fucking eel joint where your people eat, okay?
We got any of those spike monsters around here?
I do. You want one?
Yeah.
Did you order Domino's?
Yeah, I ordered Domino's.
Yeah.
We'll have pizza here in a minute. It's going to be a party.
Come here, Brian.
Okay.
This is
just
a party.
toss it to me like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
No.
So where's the breaking point for her?
Well, he's going to call her like Conrad Kamala, and he's going to have some nicknames for her. But Kamala Biden is not bad.
I think her first. We have not heard her truly off notes or off a teleprompter freestyling anything. I think
she had notes in front of her in that little BS interview. She sure did. She was reading her notes. All
right, hold on. It might be starting. Hold on.
I don't think he called her names.
Moments away. We have the entire
20-second countdown. So we have 20 seconds.
Everything.
That shit she did with CNN.
Yeah, the castaway views where they break away.
That lasted 18 minutes.
Yeah,
like who the fuck wants to promote all day that you got the most exclusive interview ever and it's 18 minutes long?
Guys, quickly, I'm about to place a prop bet. Is she going to show cleavage tonight?
No.
Yes.
Tonight, the high-stakes showdown here in Philadelphia between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump.
Who's this chick?
Face meeting in this presidential election.
Harris.
Their first face-to-face meeting.
For President upended just weeks ago, President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play.
Frack it,
the
baby.
ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
Here we go. Here we go.
This is an
That's what my
ABC
Trump
News
shirt
special.
says.
The most consequential
Here we
moment
go.
of this
I'm the most
campaign,
MAGA
Kamala
here.
Harris.
Together, we will
Dan, she needs some, like a
Neck cream.
Donald
yeah,
Trump.
she needs a neck lift, Dan.
be a great nation.
Just want to tell you something. I'm going to kick this bitch's ass.
Historic.
All right, here we go.
The ABC News presidential
Shannon
debate.
Burke standing by with modern technology.
David Muir
Here we go.
and Lindsay Davis.
Here we go. They're going to.
Wow, John, thank you.
Did you get another John?
Good evening, I'm David Muir, and thank you for
Another
joining us
John?
for tonight's
Did you?
ABC News
Hold on,
presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and
Holy
around
shit,
the world
that's a
tonight.
G-ball for
Vice
tonight.
President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are just moments away from taking
James
the stage
Donahue,
in this
who is that? That's
unprecedented race for
843
president.
Bubba, isn't it?
And I'm
Yes, it
Lindsay
is.
Davis.
$100
Tonight's meeting could be the
And
most
Mario
consequential
Gonzalez,
event of their
25.
campaign. Election day now less than 2 months away.
Here we go.
For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President.
This
Make
is
that for her?
this is key for her, is it not?
Of course, that decision
do or
followed
die.
his debate.
I mean, this is the election tonight, don't you think?
She just has to go out there and do okay. If she goes out there and does okay,
brings
she'll
us to
be
the
all right.
rules.
Why do you think they
Tonight's
picked an
debate,
Indian
90 minutes
American interviewer here?
Look how small her podium is.
Have been shared with the campaigns.
I bet her pussy's bigger than her podium.
Answer
Oh, so
questions. And this is
cute.
the
It's like a
I
dollhouse.
just want to let you know that the vice president's pussy is bigger than its podium.
follow-up clarification. Their microphones will only be turned on.
Well, Montel's
$20.
tall, man. Montel's
Man,
really tall. I've seen him
they're-
in person. He's like 6'3" plus.
See,
Man, I
Look
hope
at
we
the
see some
difference.
cocks tonight.
Two candidates who have never met.
President Trump.
these two have never met, have they not?
No, and not in
Never.
the same room.
And never even been in the same room. So much they hate each other.
Let's now welcome the candidates to the stage.
All right, here we go.
Vice President Kamala Harris
Kitty table.
and President Donald Trump.
Well, this
All right,
feed's behind this feed.
so they're walking out.
Uh-oh.
Wait a second.
Well, my video's way ahead of you guys.
Yeah, where that screen, the big screen is way
Thank you.
behind.
Which one?
Welcome to you
The
both.
one
It's wonderful to have
behind
you. It's
you.
an honor to have you both here
Well,
tonight.
Good evening.
What does it
We are
matter?
looking forward
Because
to a
the
spirited
audio
and thoughtful
It's
debate.
coming from behind
So
your
let's get
head,
started.
and it's delayed.
I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say
We're not
is their
watching
number
that
one
TV.
issue, and that
Better
is
answer
the
the first
economy
question.
and the cost of living in this country. Vice President
Jesus,
Harris, you and
you
President
two
Trump were
fuckers.
elected 4 years
We're
ago, and
trying
your
to watch
opponent on
this.
the stage here tonight often asks his supporters,
that
are you
one.
better off than you were 4 years
Or
ago?
no.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better
don't
off
even
than
Yes,
they were
know.
watch
4
the
years
one
ago?
behind you, Bubba.
So I was raised as a middle class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest
Just for new kids.
we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a
Donald's
crib,
looking good.
buy a
Look,
car
he's just
seat, buy
he's just taking it all in.
He's lost some weight.
Yeah, he has lost about 20
passion.
pounds.
One
He
of
looks
them
good.
is small business.
Not nearly as orange either.
My mother raised
Getting
my
murdered,
sister and
almost
me,
murdered will do that to
but
a man.
there was a woman who helped raise us. We
Bird
call her our
Sienna.
second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give
My plan is to try to fix everything I fucked up after the last 3.5 years. I'd really have a lot more respect for if she just said that.
America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before.
That's right. Cash was 213.
Billionaires and big
That son of a
corporations,
bitch.
which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month.
Yeah, why they abolish the IRS.
Said
fuck's
that
she talking about?
Trump sales tax
the
would
tariffs.
actually
The
result
tariff tax.
for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
She's getting
President
lost.
Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people.
She's over there shaking her head, and he didn't do that to her.
Nope.
So I'm just telling you, he didn't do that to her when she spoke.
Country, from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums.
Talking about immigration.
Coming in, and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest.
So far, he's owning her on segment one.
Do it again.
I think you're looking at it through a different lens.
Okay, all right.
From a composure, if you even look at the words, if you just look at the composure.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century.
So COVID's his fault?
Yeah. Worst attack on...
I'm just saying for those scoring at home, Donald Trump is in charge of COVID.
And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again.
Thank you.
I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad.
Debunked thing.
But it makes no difference.
Yep. Take that one right down to zero.
Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially.
What's that?
He was at the Heritage Foundation, gave a speech supporting it.
We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
See, I think she needs to stop her bullshit because he hasn't been doing any like shaking of the heads and things like that when she's talking. He's being actually more presidential than her right now at this point.
But not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know.
I hope somebody says we're where we are because of your guys' shit.
Then he isn't looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences. Like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that we just lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr.
A little buffering, got a little buffering problem here.
Tariffs, you responded, and let's drill down on this, because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with
no
what they've
bacon
done.
in the Burke House?
They've destroyed the economy.
And
all you have to do is look at
There's some eel, though. Fuck it.
Say 80 and 85
Right next
even
to the eel in that drawer right
that
there.
the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place.
Looks like a
How do you
fool.
respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade
drinking game.
deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires.
20 years ago.
Focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having, on the short end of the stick, in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy.
He's owning her.
If she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring
I think
in.
it's 21.
And
It's
just
a lot
look
higher
at
than
what
21.
they're doing to
Right.
our country.
It's
They're
15, but
criminals.
it's
Many of
21,
these
but it's
people
higher than
coming in
21.
are criminals. And that's bad
Trump
for our
math.
economy, too.
It's 15. It's 21. It's higher than 21.
Immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy.
It is.
They have, and she has, destroyed our country.
I mean, they can't deny the fact. I mean, Brian, you know, from the blue side of things, they have to take onus in this immigration shit.
Yeah, I mean, we have to solve
issue
it.
of
But we
abortion.
actually need to
President
solve
Trump,
it.
you also
Nobody
Stop
wants
it.
to solve
No,
it.
but they're the ones that let
Reverse it.
that let it open.
Proud to
right?
be the most pro-life
Yeah.
Yes.
president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights.
All things Tibby,
in your home state
$20.
of Florida, you surprised many
Thank you, all things
with
Tibby.
regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said
Again, thank you to John Costica for a G-ball tonight. Love you.
Yes,
that
thanks,
you
John.
need
About time to
more
let her
than 6
talk and
weeks.
let
But then
Blockhead
the
give it a
very
rest.
next day, you
What's that?
I said about time to let her ask a question and let Blockhead give it a rest.
She's got some padded shoulder
Vice
pads, too.
President Harris
Huh?
says that women
80s is calling. They want their shoulder pads
Yeah,
back.
no doubt.
abortion
Between her
because
shoulder
you've
pads and
changed
Kamala's
your
blouse.
She looks
position
like
so many times.
she looks like
Therefore, why should they trust
David
you?
Bowie. David Bowie's suit.
Plan is,
Hold on
as
here.
you know, the vote is they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her
I killed 3
vice
babies today on my way in.
pick, which
I got 4 abortions on my tab.
for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's
Excuse me, I'm
execution, no
talking.
longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states.
Fucked up Jones, $10.
And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened.
Hey, it's right. I mean, you know what? The people have a better control of it if it's on the state level.
But no
In
one's
fact,
trying to have an abortion after the kid's born.
No, you're right. He's right on that one.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to see how she addresses that, because that pissed her off.
Of the people now, it's not tied up in the federal
it's 'cause it's an
government.
absurd
I did
argument.
a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact.
What the hell?
I mean, it's
Let's
a lie,
understand how we
Shannon.
got here.
You know,
Donald Trump
there is no state where it's legal
hand-selected
to kill
3
a baby
members of the
after
United
it's
States
born.
Supreme Court
Not
with
yet.
the intention
yet.
that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime, a violation to their body,
He said he
does
had
not
exceptions
have
for
the right
that.
to make a decision
No,
about
20
what happens
states, you
to their
don't
body
have an
next. That
exception.
is
Can he step in,
immoral.
though, or no?
And
Can who
one
step
does
in?
not
I
have
guess
to
it's a-
abandon
I guess
their
They
faith.
could have, dude. They had the
Deeply
House, the
held
Senate,
to agree
and the
that
presidency.
government
Oh, it's
And Obama did too.
disingenuous.
certainly
They
It's
could have
shouldn't be
codified
disingenuous by the
telling a woman
Dems.
Hold on.
I
there.
said that.
They could have. They could have.
Yeah, no, it's a
body.
fundraising
I have talked
issue.
with women around our country.
You know what they should both say?
Sunny days, $200.
Oh my God, $200 sunny days.
who want to.
You know what they should both say? Neither one of us can really do much about it. It's on the state level. Why are we bitching about it?
Why would anybody want that decision to be made by 9 people in Washington?
Yeah, I want to make it
the entire country?
I want to vote on amendment, whatever the fuck it is.
2. Zach Guido, $20.
I want to vote for you. Wide open. I'm wide open on 2. I mean, take it clear to almost it's out.
Oh, we know where you are on 2, Bubba.
And I pledge to you, when Congress.
Which one's weed? 4?
3.
Put back in.
Yes on 2 and 3.
As President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies.
He needs to debunk this right now.
Sorry, Bubba. Abortion, it's 4. Amendment 4.
Freedom.
Okay. He really needs to. He needs to debunk that because that's bad. That's a bad rap to have. You don't want that hanging on you.
Thank you, Vice
Here we go. Hold on.
Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken.
I guess he kind of said what I said.
A national abortion ban.
It really doesn't matter what the president wants. It's the state. It's a state level deal now.
Go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't
JD,
mind
if you're listening,
he
you're
has
fired.
a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me. But I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal.
Bubba, can you check PayPal?
Yeah, I can.
A vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as
John Costica,
rightly mentioned,
another $250. That's $1,200 for the night.
Is a woman carrying a pregnancy
wholesale computers, $5 for Brian Petroni.
Asking for an abortion. That is not happening.
And Salvatore Aguilar, let me $50.
And understand
Thank you
what
so
has
much.
been happening under Donald Trump's abortion.
We got us a debate going on here. Shannon Burke, Brian the Babyface Matroni, Dan Diaco, Seth, me, Lummy, and the Macho Man.
What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the childcare she
Get the
needs.
fuck out of here.
Barely can afford.
Listen, it depends on what your state.
Strangers suck
is
dick.
Unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is.
She's making this all about abortion.
Well, it's smart. It's a good issue for
Dems. Has been on the ballot in red and blue states both. The people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond.
People of
Another
America
lie.
never voted
It's
for
another lie.
abortion.
I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF.
I'm a leader on fertilization. That's why I got a vasectomy.
Will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's the
question?
problem.
Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
Excuse me, I'm talking.
you could do
Say it.
abortions in the 7th month.
Yeah, her mic
the 8th
shouldn't be
month,
on.
The 9th month.
not true.
Why is it on?
Probably
It shouldn't
after
be.
birth.
Wait,
Just
what's going
look
on
at
here?
The governor, former
Hold on,
governor
hold
of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to
did?
do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to
Whoa,
immigration and
what
border
happened
security.
there?
We know
They
that
cheated
cut
for
Trump
her.
off.
Republicans, Democrats,
Hold on.
voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna
We
do
know
that.
that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened?
For the last 3.5 years, we haven't done any of that.
Got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a
Tarpon Mark,
leader
Lummy.
who engages
You ready for
in
this one?
solutions,
Yeah.
who actually
Big D,
addresses
Dr. D,
the problems at hand.
Tarpon Mark,
But what
500.
we have in the form of president is someone who would
We're
prefer to
raising
run
more
on
money
a
than the
problem
Biden
instead of
campaign.
fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something. He's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised.
Well,
I think
got
Sibby,
And I'm going to
$100.
actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe
Is this her big high spot?
Yeah, isn't this
president
about
who actually puts
immigration?
you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that.
He's
People
so
don't live
petty
my
about rallies
We
and
have the
crowd
biggest
size.
rallies.
Well, she brought it up, though.
I know.
mean, she brought it up.
Because she
you
knows
wanna
there.
take-
but she knows it'll get him off.
That's okay.
country is big.
I don't think it gets him off.
Nation, and it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be.
Why won't the Democrats own the fact that they've let 21 million immigrants in?
Because they're new voters.
They're
It's
eating
suicide.
the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating
I've seen it too.
the pets of the people that
They're eating the
live
dogs.
there. And this is
So I've been looking at Twitter a little too much. I mean, I don't have a lummy to tell me that's a fake story. I don't have a Seth Kushner to debunk it. So sorry.
be back. They want to make America great again. It's very simple.
I'm going to Springfield, Ohio tomorrow to round up the cats.
Destroying this country.
I'm going to save
If he
every
becomes
cat.
president, this country doesn't
You're
have a
making your
chance.
cat
I'm
a
going to
federal
save all
crime.
I'm going to save all the pussy in Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah, eating pussy is a federal crime.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant.
Boy, they are really fucking laying. I mean, ABC is really.
Say my
Not
dog
fact-checking
was
her, though.
taken and
They're not fact checking her.
food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But
television.
the people are
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what.
Wow.
I hate this little fucking guy.
Talk about
Yeah.
extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney.
I'll shoot you in the fucking face with a shotgun.
Want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit.
She is riling him up, Brian. I will
Yeah,
tell you.
she knows the buttons to push.
The nation, the republic, would never survive
He's got his mugshot
another
face.
Yeah.
Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
Letting a lot of Haitians in, regardless if they're eating cats, is a big problem.
Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know
13 American soldiers. Let's not say people.
should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in. And all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made.
That's true.
Crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime.
He's right.
It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted
Wow. There we go.
for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and
How about immigration? We were supposed to talk about that.
The president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts.
All things to be 20.
So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address
For the immigrants.
what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with the same old tired playbook.
John Costica 200 on Super Chat.
I thought we were, yes. We were talking about immigration.
Was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here. Vice
Hierarchy
President Harris, on this
300,
notion of
Super Chat.
weaponization of
Hierarchy,
Justice
thank
Department.
you. 300.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former
She still hasn't closed out immigration, has she?
No.
from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions
Hot
changed?
black girl.
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother
Jamaican
who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager.
You talk about being from Indiana every chance you can get.
To the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed
You talk about being from Pasco County and being adopted too,
and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increased by 3 million homes by the end of my first term.
Shut the fuck
my
up.
work.
You got to go to M&I Homes and tell them you're going to fucking pay for half the home?
Come on.
Who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a
Boy, San Francisco's doing wonders in crime, is it not?
those who are most vulnerable. My work.
Isn't that where she came from?
Protecting Social Security and
poor
Medicare.
guy from the 49ers had to take a lick for her.
The poor guy from the 49ers had to take a fucking lick in the for you.
Scams. My values have not.
Good one, Seth.
And what is important?
Trump should have said, "Poor guy from the Niners, wide receiver, took a bullet for you."
It's about lifting people up, and not beating people down, and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump.
She just called me a
I wasn't
criminal.
given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I've built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up
for that
very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
In your ass.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were...
I think he's a little lost right now.
You saw what happened to gasoline.
Yeah, getting
So
him
they said,
into specific policy is not his strong suit.
She's got him a little churned up. Shannon, wouldn't you think that she's got him a little churned up?
Well, he's also answering the things that she flip-flopped on that she didn't answer.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
He's trying to cover that at the same time.
Right.
To come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which
No.
Oh, no.
Want a piece of pizza, Bubba?
Moment of crisis.
Yeah.
Mr. President, on January 6th,
Pepperoni?
you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security.
Wow.
Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason.
Can I
But this is not
correct
an
the record?
Go ahead.
And say that 6 states right now allow abortion in all 9 months.
Biggie 7375 $10.
Which we can pipe that
Really?
in.
6 states right now allow abortion in all 9 months.
Not after birth, though.
No, but like the day before, like 15 minutes before.
Well, that's when the mother's
Let's
life is
remember
endangered, Shannon.
that when it
Oh,
came
is
to
it?
Yeah.
That's not what it says here.
What does it
the
say?
president,
It says 9 months, Willie.
back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath.
Oh,
if
my
this
God.
and the outcome of this
That's
election
totally
is not
out of
to his
context.
liking.
Come on.
Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back.
She's
Let's
really.
chart
I
a
mean,
course
she's doing well.
The bloodbath. No, she's doing
and not
great.
She's doing
go
great.
But the
backwards to
bloodbath
past.
quote
Let me just
is
follow up.
completely
Yeah,
out of
right.
context.
Lie.
Well, if you're not ready for a civil war, you're a
And it
pussy.
was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing
That's
many
an
people,
executive order,
unlike
no?
J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say that.
sarcastically. You
But
know
those-
that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing
the elections
them
are
to
a
come
states'
into our
rights issue,
country.
just
I
like
did watch
abortion.
all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said there
They
was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania,
Right.
and I'll show you. We have so many facts and
What
statistics.
facts are there,
But you know
Shannon?
what? That doesn't matter. Because we have
17,500
to solve
dead
the
people confirmed voted in Minnesota. One intrepid researcher found the associated obituary for each one of 17,547 something that voted Democrat.
And Harris,
in the
How do you
2020.
know they voted Democrat?
Said he didn't say that he lost
That's
by a
what-
whisker. So
That's what the guy said.
That's what
he
the
did
research
not lose
found.
the election.
The ballots,
Researcher Willie says that.
And yourself.
ballots aren't tied to
But
that
I do
way.
want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this
Who else would a
upcoming
dead
election
person vote
just
for?
weeks away. He
Brian,
said, when
Jesus,
I
come
win,
on.
those people who
Jesus.
cheated. And
Man, they're just killing him and setting her up with softballs about him. Like her
yeah, it
questions.
hasn't, that hasn't been totally fair.
Yeah, I mean, like questions to her are about him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fucked up. Am I the only one that noticed that?
No.
suppress the vote.
We all knew
Is
she
that
would
what you
get
believe he's
softball.
trying to do here?
They ask him about
She's like,
him.
By
do you
81
believe
million
he's a
people.
racist like he really
So
is?
let's be clear about that. And clearly, he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States. And world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then
That's an insult.
By the way, who's doing name
calling? Exactly.
She's doing the name calling.
She said a president that doesn't want to do name. This bitch is doing all the name calling.
Names, drop names.
It leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected.
By the way, John Kostika, another 250, Lummy.
Oh, my.
That's like 1,500 deep.
Prime Minister of
Slinging that steel. I'm Valpo.
Is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with
Tarper Mark, $5 for Brian.
Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy.
Yes.
He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office.
I mean,
you know what? I'll give you a little
parties
secret.
can choose how they elect their president.
He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think
up.
we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris.
You guys screwed the pooch on that one, Harris.
Right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Uh-oh.
Well,
show my
let's
tits.
understand how we got here. On October 7th,
Some started it.
Hamas.
Donald Trump called over there and told him to fucking bring their little fan gliders in there. By the way, he owned the fan glider company.
A concert.
He opened a
Women
glider rental company.
Yeah.
And so, absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would.
Uh-oh.
And how it does so matters. Because it is also true.
Man, her neck looks real turkeyed out, does it not?
Innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children.
Dan, could you de-turkey that?
Oh, yeah.
We
Just give me
know
that 6
is
hours.
Skin
this
tight
war
and body
must
tight.
Hide the Adam's
It
apple,
must
hold 9 yards.
end
Oh, come
immediately,
on.
and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire
There's
deal,
no
and we need the hostages out.
She's all woman.
And so we will continue to work
looks
around
it.
the clock
You
on
couldn't handle
that.
her, Dan.
Work
You
around the
couldn't
clock,
handle all
also
that ass.
understanding that we must chart a course for a
Glass is virgin.
two-state solution.
Her pussy's smaller than the podium.
That solution, there must be security for the Israeli
I don't know. I took a gummy.
equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing
I'm fucked up right now, okay?
I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself,
serious
in
issue.
particular as it relates
I'm melting right into this
any
whole fucking
threat that
speech.
Iran and its
This is about
proxies
the Jewish
pose to
hostages.
Israel.
Yeah.
But we must have.
I'm like, you know what? Give Israel all the fucking bombs they need. Let's exterminate Hamas.
Have
Kamala
security,
says no.
self-determination.
That's my answer.
They so rightly deserve.
Let's see what Trump says.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with
Bomb the shit out of him.
and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in
I want to
Gaza?
hear this.
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years,
You need to stay on top
have
of it.
gone into
Yeah.
Ukraine and killed millions of people
Go to the Israel deal.
are worse than people understand.
Come on.
What's
It's a good
going on.
issue for him.
Very important. He needs
But
to
when
get
she
his
mentions
opinion out.
about
All right, here we go.
Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel. Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah.
And they used the weapons from Afghanistan. Didn't they use some of the
they've
And they
found
are
some,
spheres of terror, horrible terror.
He needs to bring that up.
It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money
The
for
Afghanistan
terror.
thing's
They
kind of
were
weak for him,
broke.
too, because he
Now
made
they're
deals
a
with
rich
Taliban,
nation,
and
now
it wasn't a good
what
thing.
they're doing is they're spreading that money around.
It's completely
Look
mishandled
at what's
by
happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Do it
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I
My
have
husband's
my entire
Jewish.
career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people.
Just not right now.
My
He's
low-key
trying to
husband's a Jew.
again divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known.
I just see him just beat the shit out of his podium like a Who concert.
Security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why
Tarpon Marklam, you
so
holding on
many
to your cock?
military leaders who
You've
you
been
have
fed
worked with have told me
$550.
For who, Dr. Dan?
we understand
for Dr.
that we
Dan,
have to
Tarpon
have a
Mark.
president
Thank
who
you.
is not
Poppin' one is
consistently
hot.
weak
Tropics.
and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of
Thank you, Tarpon Mark.
respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here.
They didn't
in
say shit
Philadelphia.
about
Back in a
Israel,
moment.
man.
And you know what? Trump really messed up by not really shoving that up her ass.
Well, it's a secret. I can't tell you. If I told you, then Biden would steal it.
If I told you how to fix the Jews, the bottom line is Sleepy
back.
Joe. Okay, you're gonna.
You want some more pizza, Bub?
We'll see in a little bit.
I got some whiskey and a beer.
All right,
and I'll
just
see,
your mic will be up. Just come up when you come back.
Pizza, more pizza, Bubba?
If I told you how to fix Israel, Sleepy Joe would fix it, make him look better for this old bag over here. I will tell you, man, I'm listen, I mean, as much as you want to be one way or the other, if you're going to be just honest, she is got him flapped up, And she, regardless of what her message is and if it's true or it's false or whatever, she, I think, right now would be considered winning.
Really?
I think it's I think at worst it's a push. I think what I don't like that she did was she said you're going to hear a lot of name calling tonight, and then she's the one that proceeded to name call.
Or maybe Sleepy Joe was just so bad that she just looks so fucking good compared to what we were used to last time.
Well, from a debate standpoint, they're going blow for blow with each other. I mean, this isn't what we watched 2 months ago.
No, this isn't like King Kong against a bald cat.
Yeah,
right. We witnessed elderly abuse and rape a couple months ago.
Yeah, it was gross.
Right.
It was gross.
It was like watching Haitians eat your poor pet.
I mean,
your little Cocker Spaniel, Seth, being devoured by a ravenous.
But I feel like
family of Haitians.
I feel like he's leaving a lot of meat on the bone where he's got some,
like the family of Haitians did it to Seth's dog.
So I think that he's leaving a lot of low-hanging fruit that he could be nailing out of the park because she's got him a little flipped up.
He's hit on a lot of points though, Bubba, and she hasn't said anything. What has she said? Name one policy that you can define of hers.
$6,000 tax credit for families.
Okay, that's it. The $6,000 tax credit that has to go through Congress.
By the way, that's only for new babies.
That has to go through Congress. Right, it has to go through Congress.
Well, and that's only if your baby survives the hospital. The doctors may decide to kill it right there and then on the table. We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, I talked to the guy from West Virginia.
If it's 8.5 months, though,
they're going to have their Democratic death squads there in the delivery room, and they'll decide every fifth baby gets to die or live. Who knows?
Dr. Dan, have you seen a lot of post-birth abortions?
Yeah,
Dan, I see it every day.
And like
I see it in the parking lot.
How would they do it? Would they just like put lethal injection? Like how would they do it?
There'd be a couple ways they could do it. You could just like let it dehydrate and die because you're not doing anything active, which seems kind of cruel.
I think give him a shot.
They could probably just give them a lot of morphine and they stop breathing.
No, Rob Kahn's going to be in there. He's going to choke each of those babies out.
Rob's going to go to sleep. Rob's going to make $1 million on putting babies to sleep.
Pop their heads like
he doesn't recognize the tap.
They could they could just hire a bunch of gamekeepers like they do for birds and just it'd be a tough one.
I know.
Tough one. Don't they like to take the blood?
I think he dropped the ball. I think he went too hard in the paint with Putin and Russia, and I don't think he went hard enough with really being able to the Israel situation.
Well, he didn't say how he would stop either. Like, I mean, did he? I know he kind of wants to give Israel what they can to go full force and get it over with.
$10.
I just wanted to hear him say that, but I don't know how he would end what's going on with Ukraine.
Well, he said that's going to be done before he even takes office.
He's going to end that before he gets office. So he has a plan for that. And I believe him. He does work fast. And there were no wars while he was president.
Oh, my God, Lummy. John Kostika just threw another 250.
No.
Is that 2 G's for the night?
It's amazing.
Send it back. We're not worthy.
Damn, John Kostika must be Valpo, Indiana Steel must be slinging.
You guys hiring?
Yeah,
I'm ready to give it all up.
Love you, girls. Stay safe out there.
Ready to give it all up to move to small town USA.
So
Valpo,
I actually think that Trump's been a little too nice to her in terms of the way he has not attacked her viciously.
No, he's been polite. He's been a gentleman. He's been presidential.
He's not called her a name. She's the one they called the name.
But he didn't go in for the handshake to start the debate.
Guzzler Kamala.
She went over to his podium. He looked like he was good, not going to shake her hand.
Yeah. Everybody wants to know, will her knees hold up through 4 years?
I just want to know if that neck's gonna hold up or not.
She's got a strong neck, man. She looks very strong. She's like a very strong woman.
I think she's doing pretty good.
Man.
Of course, I'm pulling for Trump.
You want more pepperoni pizza there, Bubs?
She does.
I didn't know there was any left.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Dan left you one more slice.
Okay.
Welcome back to this historic presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here.
How many Dan have? Like 30?
Ukraine. We're now
6.
2.5 years.
5 or 6.
You had
Mr. President.
5.
I had
been
2.
The position of the Biden administration
the whole pizza left.
that we must defend Ukraine
He
from
bought
Russia,
3
from Vladimir
pizzas
Putin,
for
to
5
defend their
people.
sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for $250 billion or more. because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
They threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? Is he our president?
The gloves are coming
doesn't
off
know
now.
he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment.
Stop it.
But also, as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Some people say that her visit inflamed and incited the war.
Remember what you said, Dr. Dan? About how he could defend himself.
Right.
Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the
Putin
work
goes,
that I...
nobody tells me don't.
50 countries together.
She's making a good point here, though. It's not. This was an act of aggression by Russia.
And because of our support,
they were entitled
because
to
of the air defense, the ammunition, the
artillery,
artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Yes, that's why he did it the 4
Vice
years
President Harris, thank you for both
Trump
of
was
you on
president.
Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and
hold on,
please. I'll give you a minute.
They're letting her double talk.
He would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening. But he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than
Great
Biden.
answer.
In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And
you know,
that is
literal and
very much what is
over-reliance
at
on
stake
treaties
here.
got us into World War I and II.
The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of
he was super set on the super cables.
We talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not, again, appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
She approved it?
If you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban.
Abdul.
He is still the head of the Taliban.
That was his name.
And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish,
beautiful.
It
had that new military smell.
The agreement said you have to.
It was all 2020 versions.
And they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
Since I had
And by the way,
Barron,
that's
10
when
months
Russia
later.
attacked Ukraine because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country.
Yeah!
Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she
She's a
was
dirty
black
Jamaican.
until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Oh,
I want to ask a bigger
This is
picture
great.
question here tonight. Why do you believe
you
it's
go
appropriate
black.
to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
Hold on here.
I don't, and I don't care.
Black.
I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I
asking.
don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me.
Brilliant.
Donald.
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this.
The American people want another $250 from John Costica.
Our country.
Man, what is
Did I
that?
don't
Tell
We
him
see
Biden's
in each
economy
other
stinks.
Yeah.
A friend. We
John Costica, yeah, man, the economy's good as fuck for you, buddy.
constantly trying to have Americans point their.
I'm voting for whoever John's voting for.
I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a
2-minute
president
limit?
who invests in those, not in hate.
There's no clock for her.
Oh.
Vice President
This
Harris.
isn't closing.
Lindsay?
President
it
Trump,
is?
this is now your third time.
No.
Yeah,
this
let him
is the most
respond.
divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up,
I
Lindsay.
want to respond to that, though.
No, you can't respond back on a respawn.
Trump gets the
Clearly,
last word, I think.
I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country, one who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism
where have we been?
about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction.
What about me, bitch?
To pursue
Start that trading
their
card company
ambitions,
up.
their innovation, their ideas, their hard work.
Cush
I
cards.
have a plan, $6,000.
All her plans are
for young
giveaways.
families for
That's
the
all her
first year of
plans.
your
Yeah,
child's life.
giveaways.
That's
to help
giveaways.
You
Yes,
were
sir.
running on
in
a
that
Ferrari
most
in every
critical stage of
driveway,
your
Dan.
child's
Yeah, and I'd win,
development.
bitch.
I have a plan.
And I'll give you a
It is
choice that you get a
about
Ferrari or a
allowing
Cybertruck.
people to be able to pursue what has
Listen,
been
everybody
fleeting
listen.
in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling
move on.
and name-calling.
She keeps name calling
Let's
him.
turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump,
president has said
no,
something.
No,
so
no,
I
no.
need
Get
to
it under
respond.
control.
I'm sorry,
Stop.
we're going to move on, Vice
One
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this is
multiple
now
times.
your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan?
No.
And can you tell us
It's
what it
hard.
is?
Obamacare was lousy health care. Always was. It's not very good today.
Wyatt
And
Harris,
what I said,
150.
that if we
Wyatt
come up
Harris,
with
a
something,
buck
and we are
50.
working on things, we're
Thank
going to
you,
do
Wyatt.
it, and we're going
For
to replace it. But remember this.
For
I
Shando.
inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare.
What plan,
but the
though? This is the
Democrats
part-
came
this
up,
drives me
they
nuts
wouldn't
about him.
vote for it. I had
Much
a
better
choice
plan.
to make
He
when
said
I was
never
president.
put out a plan.
Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We
I
read about
fired
the
them
bad
all.
ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have.
He goes, I'm not president yet.
I've got Post-its all over my office.
In 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and the government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States
John
Senate.
McCain.
And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged
He did.
as being you don't like him, you said at the time, because
I said he got caught.
He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night.
Wasn't a good enough soldier to stay not caught.
That was a major blunder for him.
Yeah, it was.
No, you don't.
It really was.
No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have
he was
no plan.
like bottom of his class.
And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight. You remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance
That's the
company
biggest
could
thing
deny
from the Affordable Care Act.
if a child had asthma,
protecting people with
if someone was a
pre-existing
breast
conditions.
cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes,
$376, $20.
and thankfully,
Come on.
as
He said he had concepts.
we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act. We have allowed for the first
In
time
ACA,
Medicare to
that's
negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President
prologue
Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald
Bubba
Trump
Army,
stands
we will
on
be
that.
staying on for an hour after the debate to take your calls.
Number one, John
Not this
McCain
part of it.
fought
We will stay on a little
Obamacare
bit.
for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money.
Concepts.
But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump.
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute
Brian
for you each.
Costanza, $100.
Well, the former
Thank you,
president
Brian.
said that climate change is a hoax.
Thank you, Brian.
Rudy, 10.
And what we
You're
know is
welcome,
that it
Bubba.
is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked.
We haven't had a hurricane yet this year.
Yeah,
Who has been
George
the
said
victim
that.
of
I mean,
That's
right?
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I mean,
Nothing.
We haven't had shit.
And they're upset.
Lot of
There we go,
rain.
that we
25.
can actually deal with this issue. The young
Primetime
people of
Toys,
America
75.
care deeply.
Thank you, Primetime.
Issue. And I am proud that as vice
Vegas
president
Army,
over the
50.
last 4 years,
Who?
Vegas Bub Army.
Thank you.
in a clean energy.
Thank you.
They're
I mean,
upset that we
while
haven't had a
have
hurricane
also
yet.
Yeah.
increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs.
To get that,
he lost
that bill
manufacturing
passed.
jobs.
That's right.
And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products.
And they'll also
American
kill people for me if I want
it
them to.
includes
Electric buses
growing
from Canada.
what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
He got his stuff in.
So I think that his latest exchange right
His
there,
10th round.
that was good. I think this last round was probably a little. I think the first one was a push, maybe +1 Kamala. I think this one might have been +1 Trump. How do you guys score?
They look tired, like they were just leaning on each other, Bubba, just waiting for the bell to ring.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go through. Shannon, how do
old Frazier fight, you know?
I don't know.
They're punched out. They're both playing rope dope.
Yeah. Yes. They're leading in.
Shannon, how do you got it?
I think obviously there has been some softballing here. I mean, we can all admit, right?
No, they've definitely been. It's just been a home field advantage for Kamala.
Right.
Absolutely.
With that said, I don't think Trump. This is not his best appearance.
I don't think so either.
No.
I think that she has brilliantly got under his skin and affected his delivery. Brian, what about you?
There was a moment there when he started to compare her to Biden, and I thought he was going to go with the Kamala Biden thing and stick with it. That's his strongest point to make, is to tie her back to the most
I don't think he wants to call her that.
president.
Yeah, but I don't think he wants to call her Kamala Biden per se, because that will only validate her name calling deal.
That's
although
right.
she's the one that started the name calling.
But you say, she's called me disgusting things. The most disgusting thing that I can call her, Kamala Biden.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, the most
Kamala Biden, the most disgusting thing, because he's the
accurate.
worst president, the most failed administration, and she is him. They're one and the same.
Seth, what do you
think? And that would be a much more effective argument than the one he's put forth.
I'm surprised by Kamala's performance tonight.
I am too.
She's done well.
Yeah.
She stepped up, and she's well coached, and she's very confident.
I mean, I kind of want to see another round in a month or so. I know this is going to be it. But
Do you think she'll do it again?
No,
she did well.
I think she's got. No, I think this is going to be a push, or even maybe a minor victory, and you leave it at that. I mean, she couldn't do any better than this. She's doing pretty well.
You're right.
I mean, she's doing pretty well. And I mean, listen, even though she's full of shit, and the bottom line is and we're fucked if she's elected. And the bottom line is all of her policies are just fixing what we fucked up up over the last 4 years. But needless to say, I think that she's done pretty well on selling her bullshit.
So you're voting for her?
No.
Do you think Biden's watching, going, she fucking
Biden's
sucks? I did so much
asleep,
better.
dude. Give me a break.
In fact, they double medicated him so that he didn't have to watch
He didn't have to see it.
Biden's in a studio somewhere debating a fake Trump, thinking it's the real thing. He hasn't been told yet that he's not running.
Biden, they got Biden.
Tell you what,
they got Biden on 3 Klonopins and some
Thorazine. He's out like a lion.
Because it'll just make Joe really sad because you'll see her nailing it.
He has no idea this happened tonight.
All right.
I think they had different sort of benchmarks that they had to sort of live up to, and everyone had warned Trump not to be attacking and not to be mean and not to be vicious.
And he's being mean.
Not really.
No, he's not.
He wasn't. He was
not
a gentleman.
Enough.
He was presidential.
He was for a while.
I'm talking now.
He was. That's a good point.
I was just doing a joke.
I apologize, Dan, for interrupting you.
But I let everyone else get their opinions.
You did. I apologize.
And so,
so sorry.
I thought he was very measured and very patient during it, and didn't try to step on her, and she did. She also talked about not wanting to be a name caller, and yet she proceeded to call names. She talked about how she wants all these new policies, and yet she couldn't concede that she has been in the passenger seat, riding shotgun for the last 3.5 years. She attacked him for no policies, and it said his policies would fail, despite the fact that for 4 years, 3 of those 4 years it didn't fail, and then COVID came along, and that kind of sort of changed the playing field. She talks about a threat to democracy, and yet he highlighted that she never got a vote to run for president.
Yep.
So in my mind, he destroyed her. I thought she was very personable. I thought she was very gregarious. I thought she had good delivery, but I thought what she said was either useless, wrong, or just words that she was just liking to hear herself say. A lot about her mom and her this and her. This is the first time that a lot of people have actually had a chance to see her. She recognizes that, and she's trying to appeal to purse strings and to subgroups. She's not really trying to appeal to all Americans.
All right, hold on. Back now.
National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
And not giving Lummy any time. Thanks.
I waited.
No, but you could have cut it a minute short to get Lummy in there. You fucking hogged it all up. You hogged it the fuck up. You made it yours, like you always do. You wouldn't shut the fuck up, and Lummy has to sit over there and say nothing.
That is focused on the past and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can...
Seth, you got to get that $50K for Cush's cards.
Hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together. That is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor,
I always open up with 5 words.
A victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever ask them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first.
She's doing good.
I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now.
Well, you got 4 at best.
I got 3 months, lady.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump.
Here we go.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong.
Bring up the wall.
Like it or
Bring
not.
up
Germany
immigration.
tried that, and within one...
Don't you think he's got to bring home immigration?
Normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution
All right, we'll take your calls.
I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News.
You need some fucking Botox. She's got Botox. He ain't got shit.
He looks like a Junior Diaco a little bit. He looks a little bit like Jay.
And we are here live on ABC.
So are we, bitch.
This debate. Comments.
Hold on, let me just hear how they first spin it real quick, and then we'll get into our spin, okay?
Could you imagine if ABC started calling out contributions from listeners?
Oh, yeah. John Costica from Valpo, $2,500.
Did you get a PayPal?
Wow, that was quite a debate. And I'm Jonathan Karl here with, of course, Mary Bruce and Rachel Scott.
Of course.
Our reporters across the news division have been updating our live blog, looking at some of the allegations made back and forth, doing fact checks. You can find all of that on abcnews.com. But I would like to replay the moment at the very start of this debate.
Did I miss a 500 from Tarpon Mark?
Sure did.
500 from Tarpon Mark.
Let's have a good debate.
Wow.
Thank you.
I mean, quite a moment, first of all, because we hadn't seen a handshake. We haven't seen a handshake in a long time.
She initiated that one.
And
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, that was a power move by her.
She walked over to him and sought him out.
He should have met her halfway. He should not have let her strategically do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
he should have make her look stronger.
It did.
Did she walk all the way over to him?
She didn't want to do it, and she did it. She forced him to do it.
He's the guy that reaches out, grabs Putin, you know. And,
it's a better
Putin
look for her, Dan, to go to have traveled the distance to his podium, and then
I thought she was like running up to the king to shake his hand.
No, he should have seen that she was, and he should have met her halfway, or even tried to scooch over towards her a little bit. I think.
Policy and plans on either side of that.
Man, this is the fucking crypt keeper right here, this bitch.
And over again. But what you had
she
was
remembers voting for George Washington.
Yeah,
Kamala
she's
Harris
like, I remember when William Taft said.
Hold on, let's see.
The microphones were muted when they weren't speaking, but many times she didn't need a microphone. You watch Donald Trump get mad, scowl through things. And, you know, John, we were all talking leading up to this about
Kamala
how
didn't
this
have a
would go,
poker
what
face
Donald
either.
Trump you would say.
At all.
No.
So
and
to say that Donald Trump scowled, she scoffed and laughed and rolled eyes.
She did just as many. Yeah. She did. If we're going to be honest, and that's what we're going to be, and that is, if she is the one that started the head shaking, and he stayed
from the top.
He stayed.
The first opening statement, he was stoic.
Right.
He followed the rules, and he wasn't mean to her.
She was, for this old bag to say that he scowled and whatever. Kamala Harris started the head bobbing and the knot, and the shaking of her head. She started
the sister girling.
Yeah. Doesn't know. Harris looked like she belonged on the stage. Looked like she is somebody that could serve as president.
And that is certainly how the campaign is feeling tonight. I can tell you, the Harris campaign feels very good. They feel they had a very strong night, that she was in command, that she did look presidential, and that she was able, they feel, to hold Donald Trump accountable.
She was better than Hillary ever was. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, Hillary was just bitched at you.
Yep, but Harris came across better than Hillary ever did.
I think, in full disclosure and full honesty, I think that of the last three presidential debates, going from Hillary to Biden to Kamala, that Harris did the best of those three. She did better than did better than Hillary too.
Trump set a record for what? Doing 7 presidential debates.
Right.
And he did all right. But yeah, she did good.
Hillary had policy and stuff like that, and Hillary talked about real issues, and in an intellectual way.
Here's the thing.
She was smart.
That's a good way to lose the debate in American times now. In modern American times.
Again,
I'm with you.
TikTok debate. This is
I'm
the
with
TikTok
you.
Debate.
Hillary would beat all of them in a policy, intellectual conversation debate. Right. But this is TikTok times, man.
Right. So as a TikTok debate, Kamala did pretty
Kamala
well.
didn't say shit about fuck tonight.
Nothing. No, she didn't say shit about fuck. She didn't say shit about fuck. And she got through it.
She's more likable than Hillary. Hillary would kill her on intellect and policy, but Hillary doesn't.
Hillary would also have her killed, by the way.
but I will tell you, man, that Harris has a better delivery than all of them. She comes across likable.
Well, she's a seasoned politician. She's only had a real job for like 3 years of her whole life.
She doesn't seem genuine.
Yeah, they got Tim. What's this guy's name?
Walls.
They got him on right now.
President for all America and Kamala Harris. You saw the confidence, you saw the vision, you saw the poise, and you saw the compassion for people. Understanding she spoke about an economy that moves us forward, moves all of us forward, lets everybody be a part of it. And she continued to lay that out, whether it's reproductive freedom or how we start small businesses or making home ownership easier. And on the other,
all right, so I
got fat eyes.
Hold on,
80-year-old Donald Trump, angry, unhinged, and as you've been discussing,
unhinged. That's what they're going to go with. Yeah. That's what they're going to go with.
He was not unhinged.
I'm so disgusted by that comment. I should go to bed.
And I have to tell you, if it weren't
stop
so
bitching, buddy. We had like 2,500 reasons from John Kostika for you to nut it out.
I mean, Jesus.
John Kostika's in bed
contrast
right
now. John Kostika's going to get up at midnight and just throw another $250 out there.
He went to bed an hour ago.
Exactly.
I think
he's got it on auto pay.
This country can see what happened tonight. We'll keep pushing forward. That's the way that the country wants to see our politics be. She laid it out clearly. Donald Trump brought nothing tonight.
He's younger than I am.
Resentment.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Governor Waltz, I do want to ask.
Man, I mean, here's what I'm disappointed in, Brian.
People have different genes.
No, but here's what I'm disappointed in.
That's crazy.
Is that ABC, now Fox is one way, CNN is the other.
She's only 32.
But, they're not even being fair.
No, ABC's one way.
No, I understand, but why can't we get a network to be fair? Why can't because
why can't we get people to care?
Well, look at the people who are running the networks, Bubba, and who are the relationships with. If you look at the people that run the networks and who the relationships have been over the last 15, 20 years, you can see that it's all skewed towards the Democrats.
Here's the way I would do this debate. Trump's team gets to pick one moderator. Kamala's team gets to pick one moderator, and those two moderators agree on a third moderator. And that's how you do a debate like this.
You don't need a third person.
You absolutely do.
No, you don't. You need a third person.
Because otherwise it's going to be – you need a moderator for the moderator.
No, you don't. That's stupid. That two moderators worked perfectly tonight. The
moderators
were not a problem.
It was very one-sided. It wasn't perfect at all.
It worked perfectly as far as the debate going back and forth. Their questions sucked because they were biased.
All right, hold on. Here's J.D. Vance.
It was a cool format.
Here's J.D. Vance. Give him
a national abortion ban. He didn't answer the question suggested. I guess.
And see, that's all negative leaning shit. They automatically feed. They automatically feed J.D. Vance
There's
negative
Trump
shit.
sucking networks out there you can put on.
The mix up here.
This is the hosting network.
I think the president's been very clear that he doesn't want a national abortion ban. I think in some ways he finds the question a little bit ridiculous because why are we asking him about legislation that's never going to actually happen and why he would veto it or not veto it when he says very explicitly that he doesn't support a national abortion ban and he wants these policies to be made by the states. But I think there's a deeper and more important issue here in this debate, which is that you had Kamala Harris effectively echoing platitude after platitude after platitude. The American people can't pay their grocery bills on platitudes. They can't put their kids in a house on platitudes. And Kamala Harris had a lot to say, but very little actual substance behind it for how she's going to lower grocery prices, secure the border, and make housing more affordable in this.
Ryan Phelps, $50. He said it was great to hear Shando on.
Years. She can't run on a record, and she apparently can't run on much of her plans either because it's just a lot of slogans and not a whole lot of substance.
But Senator Vance, why won't he just say that he would veto the national abortion ban? And by the way,
he did.
He
did.
You weren't put in a position to answer that question?
No, I hadn't spoken to him about it because, again, Donald Trump thinks the question is absurd because he doesn't support a national abortion ban, and he's been explicit about it. And, John, I think that it's so preposterous for the media to focus so much on an issue where Donald Trump has been crystal clear and not on the fact that people can't afford groceries and housing because of Kamala Harris's policies. This election is actually quite simple, and Kamala Harris and apparently the media would like to distract Americans on issues, by the way, that Donald Trump has been crystal clear about, but they're not talking nearly enough. This debate didn't talk nearly enough about the fact that Americans are struggling because they can't afford groceries, they can't afford.
I listen. So so we don't sit here all night long. Well, let's go through and kind of give our spin. I think that I really thought Trump had a better close. Because I was hoping that he would throw it back to all your policies are just fixing the 3.5 years worth of fuck ups, and I think that he kind of said that, and then he got into the immigration issue, which I think that that in itself is probably the scariest problem that we have that most people really doesn't affect a lot of people, but it's a festering boil that is going to get worse if these people are not deported.
I'd agree.
Go ahead.
I think we know from tonight that I don't think Trump did the best he could.
I did not.
I don't.
I think she won it on poise and, like Dan said, decorum, and she probably spoke better, maybe came across better. That's not withstanding of her stupid policies and stuff like that. But I think I think that if you're a person right down the middle, she may have come across better than he did.
It's sad that this is the only debate we'll have. It's ABC, obviously slanted a great deal, but this is what we got to live with. So.
Over to you, Brian. I mean, how do you score this, and what do you think? What's your thoughts on this? And I'm going to run it. And I'm not going to let Dan. I'm going to actually ask you. I was
going to give Dan my,
No,
make sure
Dan's going to go last if we have any time left.
I think Kamala had the most to win and lose tonight, and she served herself well. I mean, Dan is absolutely right. From a substance perspective, there was very little in this debate. It was more name calling and finger pointing and sound bites and platitudes, in J.D. Vance's words, than anything else. But Kamala did come across as somebody who was, for the most part, in cool and control, collected. I think the initial handshake is a big deal. I think that's going to be a photograph
I think that's going to be a meme that lives on forever.
I think that I didn't like her constant reactions to what he was saying and
then him getting blamed for it
and it's not fair, right? And it kind of shows the bias in the media there, but overall, if I was to grade it, I'm disappointed that Trump wasn't more aggressive for his sake. That's
now does that bode well with what most people criticize him for being a little too bull in a china shop. He backed it down a notch. Do you think that maybe, as much as it disappoints you, do you think that might bode better with the average person?
No, because the people that aren't going to vote for him are never going to vote for him anyways. I think the more he could have connected her to and he did a good job at times. There were moments.
His close was all about connecting the last 3.5, and that's what we remember.
The problem was it should have pretty much been the answer to every question. He should have beaten that Biden drum until it broke. 38% presidential approval rating. We've never seen numbers that low since, I think, Carter.
He didn't even bring that
after
up.
Iran-Contra. But he didn't even need to bring it up. Just beat the Biden drum. She is Biden. They're one and the same. You're voting for 4 more years of what you got. Don't let her fool you on this is going to be a change. Who do you think's been running the show? Who do you think's been calling the shots? That guy you saw me destroy on this debate stage 2 months ago?
Man,
or
you should have got a hold of Trump and been a speechwriter or something.
Amanda,
He essentially did say that, and he said it in a measured, calm way that everyone insisted he had to do to win the debate. He followed everybody. Listen, everybody said don't attack her because different rules. She can attack him because he's a man, she's a woman, she's black and Indian, he's white, so she can attack him.
I don't care what
color she is.
He followed the rules.
Said she was black, said she wasn't. I don't care. Her dad's a Jamaican.
He followed the debate rules and the interpersonal rules, all the style rules. He followed all the rules, and he got everything out that he had to get out. I thought he did what he had to do. She is nothing but, again, a TikTok candidate.
You are going to find yourself.
Please let me go.
You're going to find yourself very alone in that opinion, Dan. When the dust settles on this, I think more people are going to be in line with what Bubba and Shannon and I have said about the overall performance and takeaway from this debate.
Yeah.
Lummy, you have the floor, sir.
Lummy, your floor, and then over to Seth for the kicker. And then Macho Man if he hasn't torn up the tiles of the ceiling.
Can I get my feedback at 6 a.m. tomorrow?
Yeah, you want to leave now?
No, I'm just saying, we're going to do this tomorrow morning anyway, so.
It's called a tease. It's called a long tease. Let's just go. Why don't we just go through the night?
Game.
Let me go.
I think Trump got upset with the whole ABC thing because they weren't calling her out on when she was spreading lies, misinformation, kind of like they were, and I think that pissed him off, which kind of threw him off his game. I think she did a lot of alphabet, word garble, blah blah blah.
Word salad.
Word salad. Trump. It wasn't bad, but Trump also once he got a little heated. I think he got off his game, made him look weak. And now I'm looking at this fat fuck on the TV here, but
Chris Christie.
Yeah, but I think
Bubba's not.
What?
Oh, for real?
Come on, baby.
Really, baby
Dude,
face?
I was wrapping it up.
Really?
What is that?
Dude.
Really,
That's
man?
not cool.
You're gonna call me fat?
No, Lummy did.
No, he didn't. He did exactly.
Brian, come
Chris
on.
Christie.
That's fucking bullshit.
That's
right?
bullshit,
Yeah, thank you,
man.
Shannon.
Fuck.
Jesus,
For real,
way to end
Brian.
the show
Dan's the
that
one who had
way.
8 slices of
Had to get
pizza.
personal.
Yeah.
I did.
Had to get bro.
He's like Kamala. He's just
Man,
deflecting
calling me
now.
fat. I'm not. You know what? I'm not saying goodbye to you, motherfucker. I'm walking out and ignoring you. Calling
I'm
me
going to come
fat.
up and shake your hand.
No, I'm gonna punch you in the mouth.
And I'll punch him too, Bubba.
Call me fat.
I'm going to give you more
That's
of these.
cheap heat,
I'm going to give you more of
man.
these lobster
That's
potato
bullshit
chips.
heat. Even Seth says, "Man, I feel sorry for Bubba. Here he comes in here trying to do a show, bring in here, and you end it with he's fat."
I think we should
He
take.
gives a Jewish guy pork and causes the host fat.
We should take off tomorrow, Bubba.
But thanks for the pizza.
Think about what we've done.
It's about time somebody bought Dan a meal.
And finally,
Yes,
Seth.
never
Seth
happens.
with Macho, do you have an opinion on this?
I don't know if it moves the needle at all because I was watching social media and some people were saying Kamala killed it. And I'm like, how the fuck did Kamala kill
Well,
it?
that's social. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. She's a
That's all that
TikTok candidate.
matters.
That's what matters to a lot of people.
She'll go.
But, what's really funny, Bubba, is that
Thank you, Macho
every
Man.
election,
Because it's Dan's time.
every
She
election,
didn't call me fat.
I'm not calling you fat. Every election.
It was the beast, man.
the
I'm going to
kids-
blame it on
The
Nasty
kids are
Beast.
going to vote for the Democrat. They don't show up to the election.
Nasty Beast
Seth,
got me.
over to you,
No,
my
Macho
friend.
Man. Anything else from Macho Man?
Macho
No,
Man.
Dan articulated it for you better.
Did you
Thank
see
you.
the Cybertruck out there, Macho?
It's Brian. It's my show. I'd like to keep it moving along. I appreciate it for you trying to not only call me
Man.
fucking fat, but
But,
take over my program. My next con will be to turn your fucking microphone off before I hit your fucking big ass teeth in the mouth.
Start calling you ABC. Shutting off my microphone.
And then Seth, over to you. I know you're
Jesus
just,
fucking Christ! I took the edible too early. I thought it was very boring the whole time I was imagining them have sex. I think that I could get past her gob, and that's really what I decided tonight is that I could mount Kamala Harris missionary position, and I would have no problem with it.
Really?
Yes. Thank you.
She's not hideous, Dan.
She's not
She's
hideous.
not like J-Lo.
She's not hideous. She's, I mean.
What would you rate her? Scale of 1 to 10.
Kamala?
Yeah.
She's a solid 6.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
I give J-Lo a 7 over that all day long. I think.
All right.
J-Lo. And then, well, we won't go into my rating.
Yeah.
Does your anger have anything to do with it? Like,
I'm angry. I got called a fat ass.
Cheap heat, but it's not on one of my lists of things I can't do. So if you want to add that, I'll stop it.
Amen.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Shannon, thank
Good
you,
night,
my
bitches.
friend.
Take care, Shannon.
Love you guys.
All right, my friend. Wow, I can't believe fucking.
I'm sorry,
man,
Bubba. That was wrong.
That was hurtful.
Hey, listen, man. I'm calling myself out. I will not be on the show Thursday. I'm going to give myself a timeout. I'm going to think about what I said and did tonight, and I'll come back in 2 weeks better for it.
No, don't.
No, bitch, you're doing heavy lifting on Thursday.
No,
we're tired.
No, I'm going to be there Thursday. I am sorry, Bubba. It was cheap heat.
It was bullshit.
It was bullshit. It was bullshit.
What if I called your wife? Like, what if I said
I didn't
something
say
about
anything
your
about Erica. She's gorgeous. She's perfect. She's too good for you.
Are you a bitch, Brian?
I'm a bitch.
Good for them.
Thank you for the pizza, though, Brian. Again.
Yeah, thank you.
Bubba can have the leftovers. I'm sorry. Not because you're fat, but because I don't want to take him home.
We'll see you guys tomorrow, 6 o'clock.
Another fat joke.
Yeah, another fat joke.
No, I said not.